So the next 3 sessions are all around this idea of shaping our common digital future. And we're going to start by diving into our Global Disruptor series. This is when we take a really close look at what it takes to change the market and dominate a sector. In these sessions, we love to talk to the people who are changing the way we do business, shaking it up. Really delighted to have now back onto stage Chief Wizard, co-founder of Builder.ai, Sachin Duggal, as well as the founder of Safexpay, Ravi Gupta. Thanks very much for joining both of you.
Thank you.
So let's start with payments. You know, a couple of years ago, it just wasn't a sexy word, payments, but I cannot tell you, and you know this better than anyone, that post-pandemic, all we want is faster, more seamless, safer digital payments. We want to pay from any device, whether it's the phone, the watch, and we want our data protected and we want it to be secure. So tell us first of all, Ravi, about your company.
Sure.
What do you do?
Yeah. So we as a Safexpay, what we do, basically we are a fintech company which powers platform and the API infrastructure play for the businesses across the globe. So what we have done is we have created different fintech products, right? The first product we have is the payment aggregation platforms, neo-banking platforms, and the link-based payment solution platform. We white label these technologies and we give it to banks, NBFCs, merchants, government, education institutions across the globe. So that's what we do.
How many countries?
Currently we are into 5 countries, right? And we are just into the operation from 5 years. We haven't raised much of the funding, but we are profitable fintech, right? So that's the thing which we do.
Excellent. And tell us a little bit about how digital payments are penetrating within India, first of all, and how does that compare with other parts of the world?
So I think the digital payments, if we talk about in India, it's growing pretty fast. Like that's happened because of post-pandemic, right? The experience, what is important for the payments? So first is the experience. Second is the convenience, and third is the security, right? So once the COVID happened, right, the people adaptation from typically making the payments using cash, it's been moved from a digital mechanisms, right? So UPI is one of the innovation which India did, right? Which because of that we are able to scale pretty much faster in terms of adaptation of payments, right? If you talk about UPI, we are able to grow almost 3 times the transaction volumes in the last over a period of 3 years. And the economy of India, which is basically right now it's around 3 trillion economy, more in terms of digital payments, is going to grow to 10 trillion, right, in next 3 to 4 years. So we believe like if any kind of a payments form factor has got an experience for the consumers, and that particular form factor is working in any of the devices or any of the form factor, right, it's going to grow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sasha, let's bring you in here. First of all, tell us about Builder.ai. What do you do?
You'll have me there.
We started the business
Just with your camera.
5 macro trends that we believe. We thought that the digital and traditional economies were going to merge. We've seen that happen in spades. As a result, more and more companies were going to build software than ever before. Everyone from the grocery store up to a large enterprise. And when you started to see that demand, today the demand globally is for about 400 million developers, supply is about 25 million. And you see what's driving that demand. It's a customer that thinks Java is a coffee bean you buy at Starbucks.
Right.
And so they're not very technical. And when you think about the features they're building, 80% of the features in most applications are the same. And so we said, well, the current way of building software has such a high failure rate. It's like 82%. Can we think of a ground-up way of how people can build applications to run their ideas, run their business? And so what we've built is the Domino's pizza of building software. We're one of the largest producers of custom software in the world. And we use a combination of an expert network, reusable features, and pretty deep tech with sort of components of AI that allow us to build software at an unprecedented pace.
And how fast is customer demand within your market changing? I imagine that apps do need to adapt quite quickly with the times, and people are, now that we're doing so much online on our phones, that actually demands are quite rapid. Is that right?
Yeah, I often, when I speak to investors, I said, look, if there's one thing you take away from this presentation, it is a bottomless pit of demand globally. And we think, along with some of our partners, there's going to be 500 million applications created just in the next 5 years. And so you think about that, payments is a key piece of that. Delivery is a key piece of that. Logistics is a piece of that. We go right the way from the little girl that wants to build Pinterest for butterflies right through to an enterprise CIO that wants to build an order management system. Everyone is trying to unlock potential. And software is the key ingredient now to letting people unlock that potential. And in our small sliver of the space, to be honest, we're having really bizarre conversations internally saying, can we put a cap on growth? Can we not grow faster than this month on month so that we have a chance to breathe and build org? And things like culture and stuff like that are very important to us. But we saw run rate grew 6x. We went, it's almost 20x in 24 months. From a run rate perspective. And so demand is only accelerating. And I think, what's also interesting is when you see downturns on a macroeconomic basis, we saw COVID. We're now seeing a Cold War with the recession and inflation. I think 10 years ago, people would stop building software. Now they're accelerating building it because actually it's become the principal way of doing business, principal way of cutting cost.
Do you find that as well, that actually you're seeing it accelerating now, even as we face a downturn, a global potentially recession, we see concerns coming from the US, concerns ongoing with China. Do you still see the demand continuing to grow for you, Ravi?
Yeah, so demand is continuing to grow. Like if you talk about, there are lots of emerging countries which are there, right? Where they are looking for ready-made fintech platforms because they want to convert the experience of the consumer from your offline to the online world, right? For which they need a ready-made platform. So if any kind of a fintech, any kind of a company, they're looking for building up any of the platforms, they're going to take some time. Like the company like us come into the picture, right, and they give the ready-made platforms, right, and which they can use it and start collecting all the digitization of the payments. That's what we feel.
Interesting. So do you guys work together, by the way? Sounds like payments and building apps, you guys should work together if you don't already.
So we work with a lot of, we call them cloud partners, much like sort of payment services. And I think what we found is that if you think about whether you're a cloud infrastructure provider or a payments provider, a logistics provider, who do you sell to today? You either sell to someone that already has technology, in which case you're trying to take a customer from someone else. Or you're selling to a developer that's going to build for someone. Guess what? There's a shortage of developers in the world. And we're not going to educate our way to getting more developers. Or you work with someone like us. We're one of the largest creators of net new workloads that come online. And our customer doesn't understand which payment provider to use or which cloud infrastructure to use. And they rely on the platform to make those decisions. So a key part of our business is to work with partners like this globally that help our customers transact. And more than 80% of the customers, when they build applications and Builder, it does commerce. And so it's right the way from the person that's building Uber for private jets through the grocery store. They need to take payments.
Let's talk about how artificial intelligence impacts what you do within payments. How much of what you are doing and building and changing is impacted by the movements and changes within what AI can do and accomplish?
So I think AI is more of basically predicting the behavior of the customer, right? So what we are gonna do as a part of payments, like if you go, let's talk about experience. A customer is going to buy the product, but he don't have the limits available on the cards, right? You can offer with the help of his experience, like what are the kind of trading history he has got. You can offer some kind of a BNPL, right? Or maybe some kind of a digital lending kind of a thing, which will help the customers to buy more of the products. That is one part. Second is AI can also help lots of e-commerce sites or lots of banks or other things, like to pre-position the customer depending on his buying behavior, are different cross-selling the products. That's what I believe, right?
Interesting. And Sachin, tell us about, from your perspective, how does AI help lower costs for your customers? Because when I've looked at what your company does, that's one of the selling points. You really help people who are coming in at just the beginning of their careers or beginning of their business, building their businesses, do something quite quickly.
Yeah, I think you have to go back to that customer proposition. And so the first part of this proposition problem is, how do I get what's inside your head into a discrete set of features? So that's a graphing problem. Features have relationships, have semantic relationships. If you buy login, there is a higher probability you need to buy logout.
Right.
If you buy invoicing, there is a higher amount of probability you need to buy payments. But as a customer, you know how many people add invoicing and forget to add payments? and then they go back to the dev shop and say, could you please add payments? They're like, oh, that's a change request. It's going to cost you 50% of the entire cost of what you just built.
Right.
And so a part of what we've been able to build and are still building is this ability to enlist what's in your head, understand what you're saying, connect it back to a feature. So that's one part of the problem. Second part of the problem is there are many, when you think about the software industry, it's a cottage industry. We all laugh because we think software is eating the world, which it is, but it's not eating itself yet. And it's heavily people-driven. And so, for example, I don't understand why a human has to look at a design and a screenshot of an app and find defects. It feels like we've transported ourselves 10 years back. Why can't we use computer vision to do that, as an example, right? And I don't understand, for example, why when a customer is talking, we can't figure out what feature they're talking about. Why do we need a human project manager to make notes? And so when you think about all of these sort of discrete issues and you connect it together, software is an assembly system. It's like Toyota's car assembly line. And today, each part of the assembly line relies on a human to communicate with the next part of the assembly line. That is very low fidelity communication. As intelligent as we all are, the thing that human beings are not very good at is being consistent. And so you have a high degree of variance. And so for us, the entire use of AI is to reduce variance. And the net effect is that it used to take 8 people to build an app, or 10 people. We do it in 1.4. In some cases, for our micro SMEs, it was 0.
Interesting. So let's, Ravi, talk about how you're really shaking things up. You're working on how you can pay with your face, and also even beyond that, how we can pay for things within the metaverse.
Yeah, so very recently what we did is like we have invested into a fintech company which is based in Europe, right? Which is going to basically innovate the way we pay, right? So right now we have seen the payment through your cards, payment through your UPI channel, you pay payment through your QR code. Very recently we have invested into a company where you can make the payments using your face, right? So you can basically you don't require any kind of a phone or any kind of a wallet. You can just walk down to any of the stores and can make the payments. So that's the thing which we have invested, and we want to launch it for the markets like of UK, for the markets like of UAE and
When's
India.
that coming? When's that coming?
So we are doing some of the pilots in India, right? With one of the airport, right? Plus we are also doing some of the pilots in UAE with the stores like of IKEA. Yeah. So we are expecting maybe like around 2 months it will be going live for these markets. It's already live in Europe, which is Romania, where it's already live, and we are seeing lots of payments. The way the people are paying making the payment is going to change, where you just walk down to any stores and just show your face and the payment is done.
Interesting. What about the metaverse as well? I know you're working on that.
Yeah, so this is another concept which we are trying to disrupt the market, right? The way we shop into the world, right? Right. So what we do right now, if you see, the COVID has basically is the enabler for lots of innovations. If you see, right. So what happens, like if you see pre-COVID days, right? The people used to go to the mall, right? They see the product, they see the product specification, they buy the product, right? And they make the payment either through the cash or through the POS, right? So what we are trying to create another innovation in the space of basically which is we call as the experiential commerce. Right. So what is going to happen in that, right? You can go into a extended reality kind of a thing, right? Where it's a mix of AR plus a VR and a payments, right? You can log into the metaverse, a mall kind of a thing, right? Where there will be different stores, right? You can walk down to that. You can convert yourself into yourself as an avatar. That technology will measure your weight, height, all those specifications, right? You can get into a mall. You can go to any of the shops, you can buy the products, you can see the specification of the product that is happening with the help of blockchain. Even you can add that product into the cart and also you can make the payments, right? So that's the kind of experience we are trying to build up, and
But not with crypto yet.
So it's not a crypto, it's basically a blockchain technology which we are using here, right? We don't want to talk about any kind of a crypto here because it's like an experiential, which is like a virtual world with a payments kind of a thing. Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's the other thing which we are building it up, and we're expecting it will be live in next 2 to 3 months.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything in the metaverse?
You know, I think for us, it's probably a wider question in that our principal mission in life is to bring the things that only early adopters could access before, the metaverse. Why is UI not on a table? why can't material design actually allow you to interact with compute, which is built into infrastructure, and bring it to the masses so that they can now build technology around it. So whether the principal home is the metaverse, whether it's AR or VR, whether it's physical retail, ultimately how technology is consumed is somewhat universal. But what you see is a huge divide between those that can and those that need to. And so for us, we will probably end up, and we've already started doing work with blockchain and NFTs. We have someone building an NFT marketplace on the platform. We are not yet seeing the demand yet from metaverse from our customers. We have lots of customers talking about it. I think a lot of the story is still to be played out. But the beauty with our approach to building software is once we understand, okay, this is the use case, it's like the best example of the 80-20 rule. 20% of the features that people will need to work in the metaverse will actually be what 80% will consume. And the rest of it will always be custom or customized. And Builder will always be the Lego blocks for whatever and however software ultimately gets produced.
What I love is that both of you are having a real impact on this issue around inclusion. We know 50% of the world is on the internet. That means that 50% is still yet to join. Right. Although I think the statistics are actually better in India, 750 million having access. But give us some idea of the impact that you are both having in terms of the numbers of people that, for example, couldn't pay before online, or the numbers who couldn't have built something, built an app online. Tell us what you've done.
So I think if you talk about 10 years back, the digital payment was very nascent in India, right? Maybe not even 1% of the population were paying online, right? Which is because I started my journey somewhere in 2008 after finishing my MBA, and I joined a fintech company. No one was doing the digital payment at that time, right? So the penetration was less than 1%. Now today, if you see some of the numbers, after your COVID, it's been moved to 40% kind of a penetration, right? Because of course it is not the COVID, but also there is an intervention from the governments, right, where they keep on launching some of the kind of innovation in terms of offers, in terms of making the payments free, right, where the people don't go and go to any kind of ATMs to withdraw the cash. They can make the payment using one of the innovation, which is like UPI, right, where they can just make the payments using different UPI apps. That is the kind of innovation which is, and I think this number, which used to grow likes of around 25 to 27% at a CAGR rate, right? It's because of COVID, this growth has been changed from 25-26% to 40% kind of a thing. And right, and this digital payments overall scenario is going to grow at least 3 times in next 4 to 5 years.
Okay.
That is the kind of growth we are expecting. Yeah.
Extraordinary. What about you, Sachin? What's the impact you're having?
So I think it's very hard to quantify. You have to take a macro thesis view on this. And so one is, we know no one's going to do business the old way. And so if you're not going to do business the old way, you have 2 options in life. Do I stay relevant or do I become irrelevant? Hands up who wants to be irrelevant. I don't see any hands up. Okay, so you don't want to be irrelevant. Okay, so then what stops you building? Fear of failure, cost, fear of failure. Because if it was a low cost, the fear of failure wouldn't apply. And so as we start to see some of our customer archetypes and some of the go-to-market motions that we're doing, we're going to market through banks and telcos, as an example in some cases. Imagine your bank is now selling you software, or your telco is selling you the custom app that you need to get your business online. Wouldn't have happened 5 years ago. And so what you're seeing is there is a shape shift in thinking. No one wants to be irrelevant. There is a fear of failure that we are trying to reduce. And ultimately, I think it's a bottomless pit of demand. What we're also now seeing is things like in India, for example, the ONDC, where you're creating aggregation networks that micro SMEs can connect into so they can get a centralized customer demand. Things that would have only happened on aggregators before are now actually being disintermediated so that you can have people owning their own future, their own potential. Because I think the big fear that we've heard from customers, especially the micro SME, has been, but Zomato's going to eat my lunch, right, or Uber's going to eat my lunch, and I don't want to send my traffic there. The most searched for term in either country, we talk about sort of India and the UK, is how do I reduce my Deliveroo costs, or how do I reduce my Zomato costs? And so you're seeing this conversation across the spectrum.
Really fascinating. Well, I'd like to thank you both for joining me here on stage. Really, absolutely fascinating. We're going to be back in a moment. Mark's going to be back looking at the titans of the digital global economy, examining technology as well as digital. We'll have the Chief Digital and Innovation Officer from BT. So I would like you here in the audience to help me thank my guests, Sachin and Ravi, for such a fascinating conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.